Hi guys, so in this video, I'm gonna be reacting to zackdfilms' videos. So yeah, let's start.
Roll a piece of paper into a foot-long tube and hold it to your right eye, while touching the side of your left hand halfway up the side of the tube.
Oh my.
Now, when you look into the distance with both eyes, you'll see a hole form right in the middle of your hand. This is because each eye sees at a slightly different angle, and your brain puts those two images together. So when you're looking at something normally, you don't notice it's actually two separate pictures. But when each eye has a completely different image, your brain tries to blend them together, making the circular view through the tube overlap your hand. Roll a piece of paper into a foot-long tube, and if you ate a firefly, would it light up in your stomach? And how many would you have?
Eat a firefly. Are you that so active?
Have to eat in order for you to glow? Well, inside a firefly's body, special chemicals mix with oxygen to create that familiar glow. And to match your body weight, you would need to eat around 53,000 of them. But since your stomach is full of acid, there's no oxygen to react with, and the chemicals would just be digested. Even if they stayed intact, your body isn't built to activate them. And since they're toxic, you would actually just end up poisoning yourself. If you ate a firefly, would it light up in your stomach? If the fabric gets pinched between its jaws, it can also block the teeth from meshing. So you might just yank on it, but this can make the snag worse and bend the teeth. Instead, pull the fabric out slowly with your fingers, then gently slide the zipper. If it still sticks, rub a pencil over the teeth. Then straighten out any bent prongs, and the zipper will glide again. If the fabric gets pinched, she dropped her chicken nugget, and a crow swooped in to grab it. Soon the birds were watching her, hoping for another bite. So she started feeding them peanuts and dog food. And one day, she found a small earring on the empty feeder, then a polished rock, then a tiny piece of metal stamped with the word best. The crows were leaving her gifts, and while she kept filling the feeder each day, the birds started lingering nearby. Then one day, her mom lost a lens cap in an alley, but soon a crow dropped it into the bird bath, then left it sitting on the edge, freshly rinsed. She dropped her. Say the word boots out loud. Boots. Now push the B as hard as you can. Boots. Then drop your voice, leaving only the B sound. Boot. Next, pick any T word like time and hit the T nice and sharp. Time. Drop your voice again until only the T is left. T. Finally, say cats with a strong C. Cats. Drop your voice one more time, leaving only the C. K. Now loop all three together. Say the word boots out loud. Boots. Now push the B. His hand was pulled into the grinder, cutting off most of his index finger. And as it was healing, he broke his middle finger, leaving it severely bent. But the boy still wanted to play baseball. So after it healed again, he learned to grip the baseball with the stump tucked underneath, while holding it tightly with his crooked middle finger. This put extra pressure on the ball, and when he let go, it spun rapidly in the air, while curving downward. This made it extremely difficult to hit, and he became one of the best pitchers of all time with only 3 normal fingers. His hand was pulled into the grinder. It rolls back its eyes right as it approaches the seal, leaving only hard cartilage in the eye sockets. But with its eyes facing backwards, it can't see, so it has to use smell and hearing instead. At the same time, nerves in its snout sense tiny electrical signals from the seal. Now, the moment it strikes, the seal fights back, thrashing and clawing at the shark. But since its eyes are protected, they stay safe until the struggle is over. It rolls back its eyes If you want to yo-yo down a skyscraper, well, the yo-yo would need to scale up to about 50 feet across, just to accommodate all that string. And at that size, it would weigh as much as 36 semi-trucks, meaning to pull it back up, well, your arm would need to be 65 feet thick. But the second that house-sized yo-yo tries to reverse, the rope gets hit with all that force at once. It snaps and sends the disc on a rampage through the city.
That's cool.
If you take a quarter and show it to an alien like this, they might assume
Do you believe in aliens? Because I don't.
it's just a circle with a face on it. But if you rotate the coin like this and show a different alien, he might think it's just a thin line. Now, the two aliens start arguing about what it is. But the problem is that they're both seeing something real. They're just not seeing the whole truth. If they stopped arguing and actually listened, they might realize their observations aren't contradicting each other. They each have a piece of the puzzle, which is how they get closer to the actual truth. If you sucked up all the gold ever mined, from giant gold reserves to secret jewelry boxes, combined it all together and melted it down to make one statue, you might think it could be taller than Mount Everest. Even though there's almost 500 million pounds of gold in the world, that's actually only enough to fit inside a 6-story building. Now, if you included all of the gold still buried underground, they would fill another 6-story building. And if you combined it all together and melted it down, you could craft a statue about 2 times the size of the Statue of Liberty. Hugh sucked up. He took care of the chimp when she arrived at the zoo, and she learned to trust him over time. Even if she was on the complete other side of the enclosure, she would run over excitedly just to say hello. But he eventually retired, and years later, the chimp's health got worse. She even became too tired to eat, and when the researcher came to visit her, she could barely move. But after hearing his voice, she grinned before giving him a long hug. And after seeing her old friend one final time, she finally passed away just a week later. He took care. Order a Big Mac, a McChicken, and a fillet of fish, and pull out the meat from all 3 sandwiches. Next, place the Big Mac patties on a bottom bun to represent land animals. Place the McChicken patty over it to represent air animals, and top it off with the fillet of fish to represent the sea. After that, place the top bun back on to get the land, air, and sea burger. But all those flavors will clash together, meaning it'll probably just taste like regret. Order a Big Mac. If we flew a giant magnet next to an asteroid, it would rip off the pieces with the most metal, then capture them one by one. But every rock it captures makes the spacecraft heavier, giving it more. You're a detective, and you find an old man dead in his recliner. The neighbor called it in, said the front door had been open for days. The coroner says it was heart failure. You're a detective, and you find an old.
The door was locked. Oh my god. zackdfilms. What am I? Look.
You're a detective, and you find an
The door was closed. That does not
old man dead in his recliner. The neighbor called it in, said the front door had been.
Wait, does that say murder mystery? Oh my god. That says murder mystery. I'm not even capping. It doesn't say murder mystery too, but it still says murder mystery.
Open for days. The coroner says it was heart failure, but you notice his fingernails have faint white banding. The tox report came back positive for arsenic, enough to kill slowly over weeks, mimicking heart failure perfectly. You want to check his water, but you can't find the well. You ask the neighbor if he knows where it is, but he says he barely even knew the guy. You drive to the next property to ask another neighbor, but there's no one there. You try the next one, same thing. Every lot on this ridge is empty. So you search yourself, and 40 yards past the tree line, hidden in the brush, you find it. And beside it, you see boot prints in the mud. It looks like size 13. The old man wore 9s. Inside the shaft, you find a slow-dissolving arsenic compound designed to poison every glass of water he drank. You pull the property records of this area, and suddenly those empty plots make sense. That one neighbor owns all of them. He had bought every lot on this ridge except the old man's, who was the last holdout. You go back to the neighbor to ask a few more questions and notice a pair of big muddy boots sitting on the porch. You're a detective, and when they tried to sell coffee in Japan, it did not work because the people there grew up drinking tea. They had no connection to coffee, so it didn't sell. Now, according to the story, one company got creative and created coffee-flavored jellies and chocolate bars and marketed them to kids. They soon developed a taste for it, giving them strong childhood memories of the coffee flavor. Years later, this same company tried selling coffee again, but this time it worked. Those kids had grown up into adults and already had a taste for coffee. When they tried to sell, hundreds of pipes are buried in the concrete floor below the ice rink. They constantly pump an extremely cold liquid through them, which keeps the ice frozen. But once the season ends, warm liquid starts flowing through those same pipes instead. Now the ice sheet begins melting from the bottom up. Then machines break apart and scrape away the melting ice until the entire rink disappears as they set up for the next event. Hundreds of pipes are buried in the concrete floor below. One evening, she noticed the attic hatch hanging open
A man secretly lived in her attic.
in her apartment. She closed it and didn't think much of it until later that night when she heard footsteps above.
Why at night, bro? Why at night? It's literally 12 a.m. right now. I'm not even joking. It's 12. Oh
Of her. She told her friends, but they said it was just in her head. So she saw a doctor and told him what was going on. He put her on drugs, which left her drowsy and numb, but the footsteps never stopped. Then, one evening, the hatch opened above her. A man was staring right at her. You wake up and find your mom frozen mid-flip on a pancake. That's weird. Outside, your neighbor's frozen too. Birds hang in the air. Then you see a plane nosediving into the ground. Cars are crashing. You run over and shake your neighbor, and he drops flat to the ground. And then you trip over him. Your arm is broken. The drive to the hospital feels like a horror scene. But once you're there, every doctor and nurse is frozen. No one can help you. And then it hits you. Soon, power plants will stop working. The water will stop. Groceries will run out. Soon, it's all going to stop, and you're the only one left to deal with it. If you tried to pole vault over the Empire State Building, you would fly up about 20 feet before smashing into it. Now, if you dug a giant slot in front and ran faster than a race car while hugging a pole that's almost 2,000 feet long and 4 feet thick, you could plant it into the slot, and the pole would snap back, sending you flying at hundreds of feet per second as you clear the top. To survive, you would need a foam mat the size of a large building. But even then, the force would be so great, you would probably faint before you even hit it. If you tried to pull, the strip would cover every little bump on your tongue. Then it pairs with an app and you pick a flavor. Now you can eat steamed broccoli, and the cover will block the taste signals, replacing them with your selected flavors, meaning your broccoli will taste like a bacon cheeseburger. A glass of water tastes like an ice-cold soda, and a sad bowl of boiled chicken tastes like movie theater nachos. But if you bite your tongue, the cover could glitch, and suddenly every flavor loads at once. The strip would cover every little
Where's this?
They dug a trench around their house because the flood was approaching. They packed tight layers of dirt on top into a ridge and covered the whole thing with plastic tarps. And when the flood hit, the water rushed against the outside, getting blocked by the ridge. And for 7 days, the rain kept coming, so they kept packing even more dirt on top. Eventually, nearly 60 other homes were destroyed, and the entire town was almost completely covered by water, while their house was perfectly dry. They dug a trench around. If you have a boring assignment to finish, but you really want to play video games, instead of using willpower, just pretend that you're Batman. Then ask yourself, what would Batman do right now? And suddenly, the assignment feels less like a personal struggle and more like a mission. That small mental shift can help you zoom out, ignore distractions, and do the thing you were avoiding. If you have a boring...
That's enough for me today, guys. Okay, so yeah, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah.